So the question that comes up all the time is, what antivirus should I run for my system? And I'm going to focus this specifically on consumers, but I will briefly touch on what we run for our businesses. And the short answer for the consumers is run Microsoft Security Essentials. I'm bad at getting people to watch the entire video, I guess. So if you're looking for just the answer, that's the answer for consumers. If you care why, keep watching the video. For the businesses, we have an entire stack that we sell. So if the business doesn't want anything, we tell them just to use Security Essentials. If they want a full solution, we sell them on the SolarWinds product. And the SolarWinds product that we use is a full security stack, which means it's going to be web filtering, it's going to be antivirus, it's going to be actively monitored, and it's going to come with patch management, which is one of the keys to it. Because even if you have a good antivirus, but you don't patch your computer, and this goes for consumers and business, you have left yourself vulnerable by having outdated software on there. And those are very frequent vectors of attack besides the phishing emails and everything else. So we sell an entire security managed solution to our businesses because we actively monitor it. Because any system, and this happens all the time with consumers, they get a system, they don't update it, they ignore the updates, they want to keep doing whatever they're doing, the system becomes insecure. That's not an option for our managed clients. We force them to do the updates, whether they like it or not, I guess you could say, which that's part of keeping them secure. So it's the compromise of inconvenience for security. So let's dig into the actual test results and some of the reasoning behind me choosing Security Essentials. And I'm going to start here at the chart. So this is the April 2018 AV dash comparatives. I'll leave links to this. Here's my problem with antivirus. Besides AV comparatives, there's not a lot of people doing subjective testing and putting it together like this. It's also really hard. I've tried it myself. The problem is you need a copy of a malware that hasn't gotten into the databases of one of these companies. So it's really hard to test. Even when we find some of the malware that I think, when I've played around in my lab environment with this, it's really hard to find an antivirus that doesn't catch it. And that's because I'm just not on the cutting edge of the latest zero-day exploits being handed to me before they've been, found in the wild. That being said, that's part of the problem with most antiviruses. It's very reactive. It's find signature, update signature file, push it out to the world. Security researchers have to have this almost in real time to do it, and that is actually what you're kind of paying for with these companies, is that their signatures are valid. Now, that being said, there's a lot of factors that go into keeping those signatures valid. And that's why I have the April 2018 test pulled up. Now, I know some of you are saying, but there's heuristics and there's other things. Yes, there is heuristic behavior, which is antiviruses use known patterns of attack to determine that the software may not be legit. So they may go, hey, this has those same things as a virus. This is also what causes these spikes right here, which is the false positive spike. F-Secure apparently having a whole lot of false positives in April of 2018. And that's when it's just using the heuristics going, that looks sketchy, so I'm going to try to block it, which of course is greatly inconvenient. So another comparative is, hey, it blocks everything. Hey, it blocked too much, and now I can't use my system. So these people break down. I'm not going to get into every detail of every one of these, but I want to give you a little comparison, like I said, back to why I like the Microsoft one and why I recommend it. Microsoft, despite having some user dependence ones here, and what that's the yellow is it says, I think this is a virus, you shouldn't run this, and it does get the people the option to say yes. Hence the yellow. So a couple of different antivirus, apparently, I've never heard of Quick Heal before this moment. When I clicked on it, apparently it had the same problem. But let's go and jump back a year. F-Secure still rocking lots of false positives a year ago, but you notice like even some of the other ones have changed. It's a whole different list of tests. The amount that Microsoft had was very, very few. Matter of fact, it was user-dependent 0.7%. And this is one of those things. From month to month, they're different. So here, let's just start walking through different months. Let's look in November, because that was an aggregate of all of them. So let's just choose November. And Bitdefender's looking pretty good. F-Secure rocking false positives. And a few different names on here. Microsoft, different rates. So you can kind of see, just by changing from time to time, there are different results from month to month. It's each month they did it. Now they have the whole breakdown of how they do the test. And let's look at, we went to March. Let's go back further. So let's look at, right here, even Bitdefender in March apparently let some things come through. And I bring up Bitdefender because people have asked me about it. And then here's the Viper, Trend Micro, F-Secure. At least F-Secure's consistently false positive things. And Microsoft having an even higher number of, we asked the user if they wanted to run the virus, and they had the option to say yes, which is scary. And let's look at February real quick. Same thing with F-Secure. Bitdefender looking good with a 99.5 and Viper with a 99%. So there's always a little bit that sometimes get through. And even the well-hated McAfee software scores the same as them. Now, they have some other breakdowns and results for speed comparisons, and they've gotten much better in terms of how much they slow down your machine, but that's still an issue. So years and years ago, I might have recommended AVG. And I certainly don't recommend it anymore. I find them to be just a product that breaks a lot of things. Matter of fact, I have run into that with all of the antiviruses to some extent at a retail store, that the problem of they can't get online is because the antivirus deeply has to embed itself into the system to function. Because it has to deeply integrate with the system in order to function, there was even a time when Microsoft, when they were pushing out some of the updates, there was the potential that they were blocking certain antiviruses because the kernel update they did to protect the kernel, I believe it was from the Meltdown patch, also meant that the AV system had to be aware of that kernel change. And you can see where this all becomes a big cat and mouse game of integration. Now let's go back a little bit and talk about the different antivirus programs. And I'm pulling up here one of the security researchers, Landave.io, and like I said, I'll leave all these links below. Bitdefender Heap Overflow via 7Z LZMA. Now, let me give you an idea what that all means. What this is the antivirus became the attack vector. And the reason why is the antivirus itself. Maybe they wrote the AV engine, but there's still a series of components they need. And for example, they want to scan files. So if they want to scan files, they need things like 7-zip to unzip those files. Now, having 7-zip to unzip those files means if 7-zip has a flaw, so does the antivirus. Therefore, we have now added a compromise that wasn't previously there. So now they can send a virus in via the exploit of 7-zip, cracking open your antivirus, creating an exploit that wasn't there if you didn't have an antivirus at all or were using the Microsoft one. So that to be think of. You're thinking, okay, you pointed out one example in Bitdefender. Let's talk about, on June 5th, 2018, F-Secure found one in the RAR unpacking. Same type of exploit. So still the system has gone in and tried to compromise based on the unzipping system, and mentioned before 7-zip. So F-Secure products are directly affected. Mentioned 7-zip bugs, please more difficult. It wasn't 7-zip before it's UniFi because F-Secure properly deployed ASLR. In this post, I am presenting the extension for my previous 7-zip exploit to do the remote code execution. So slightly different twist on it, but the same overall principle. And like I said, I'll leave links to this so you can read into the details and talk about how the bug works. But now you have, once again, they've figured out a way to bypass the address space layout randomization, which is ASLR, which is the idea is if the virus doesn't know where in memory it should put itself, it's going to be hard, but they found ways around that. So F-Secure, by choosing a 7-zip compiled in there with a CVE vulnerability compiled in with it, has now once again become the source of exploit on your system. Now, don't worry. Microsoft has had their own problems as well. They have fixed a lot of them. They are very responsive to people like Tavis Ormandy, who's an amazing security researcher. I've talked about him before, and he found some vulnerabilities in here about the way they sandboxed the Microsoft Windows Defender, and they have made drastic improvements. Also, when I was there at Microsoft, I seen some of the new up-and-coming things that have now been deployed in here, which is these specialized threat protections and some of the different tools that they use. They have different methodologies because Microsoft doesn't want to be known as the virus company, so they realize that there are so many shortcomings from all these antiviruses. As part of the push for Microsoft having Windows Defender, they're also making it into an enterprise-level solution with what they refer to as ATP or Advanced Threat Protection because they want to sell it to you as a service. That's for the enterprise level. The consumers still get the free one. Don't worry. That's how, as far as I know, it's going to be free indefinitely with Windows. And as they move to the Windows Store, where you don't get third-party software, they lock it down and it only gets signed software from the store. Once again, you've locked things down quite a bit more. Now, I had this pulled up because the bank swap malware innovative way to empty your bank account. This is, you got to think about where the attacks come from and the why. So let's start with the why. They want money. How are they going to get the money? Well, let's break that down a little bit. They either want to load a crypto hijacker and do some crypto mining on your system. So that's a popular way to do it. The other way to do this, and this is where it's really interesting. ESET researchers have discovered a piece of malware that employs new techniques to bypass dedicated browsers' protection means. And how do you access your bank? How do you transfer money? Well, you go right into your browser. They realize that AV systems have actually gotten, overall, despite some of the flaws that we pointed out, they're pretty good. But your browser, someone sent me this the other day. Hey, what about this browser? What about that browser? I use a combination of things. I use Firefox and I use Chrome. Chrome automatically updates. Firefox automatically updates. There's lots of other browsers that do not automatically update, and people are like, oh, I got to keep my old plugins, so I like this old browser. If you do banking, if you do things that are secure, I actually suggest for some of our businesses, go buy a cheap Chromebook and use your computer for everything else, but use the Chromebook for the baking. Because what this does is finds a way to get in the browser, and it's really interesting because it's able to flip the bits and just try to change some of your banking stuff on there. And now, because these viruses are so quiet, and there's been another one, I don't recall the name, but it used to flip Bitcoins. If you copied and pasted a Bitcoin, it would live in memory and just change the Bitcoin address. And if you've ever seen a Bitcoin address, they're kind of long, so you would copy and paste them. And all it would do is wait for the copy and paste, and it would paste in its number. This flew under the radar of so many antivirus because it's such a tiny little thing. And that's kind of what these companies are doing. Okay, we want money. Infecting with a full-blown suite of crap is really hard now. Therefore, not impossible, don't worry. I know people still get toolbars and stupid things on their computers all the time from downloading every driver update they can find. But by finding these little edge case malwares that are really quiet, makes a huge difference because it's harder for the antivirus company to see it. It's not very many of them deployed. They often come in from a phishing attack and are very focused and targeted. So these are the more scary ones because they're high value, so they find them. Now, this is also how the antivirus world works, and I should say the virus world works, is exploits are found, they're sold on the black market. They're sold for a high amount of money if they can bypass an antivirus software. So if they run the antivirus and they scan these fancy tool that someone made and go, hey, guess what? Nothing catches it. They can sell that for a good amount of money. And until it's used in the wild, because they found some methodology that bypasses the heuristics, you have a scary situation on your hand. This is also part of the reason I feel much better running Linux, because I only pull data, I only pull programs from the repositories that are signed, so I'm not loading any third-party systems on here, which is why there's not really a need in the Linux world to run it. But that being said, before I get too far off topic, this is why the Microsoft Security Essentials, they seem to be just as up-to-date as the other ones. You're really only getting as good as their lab is able to find these flaws and do it. And guess what? Someone's first. Is it you? This is one of those problems of, like I said, the virus. They're very reactive, even though we have heuristics. And the people, the bad guys, they're at it non-stop because there's so much money in these things between the malware miners, the Bitcoins, and everything else that they're after, or just your banking information with like bank swap malware or a browser plugin that watches things. This is why you have to be so careful before you load any type of browser plugin. I only use very specific ones. If you may have noticed, I'm kind of picky on that. Now, that being said, things that can really help is just think about what site you're going to. Don't click on things that seem suspicious. Never enter your password, because sometimes there's not even a virus. You clicked on a link that says log into your PayPal, and you logged in. It wasn't PayPal. They got your data. No antivirus really, they're supposed to stop you from phishing sites, but once again, they have to know it's a phishing site in order to stop that. So this becomes back to the circle of they have to know about it to block it. So it gets really, really tough, and all the companies are working towards a better system for it, but it's not simple. Start at the website you wanted to go to, not at the link in an email that said, hey, you need to update your credentials at your bank, at your accounting office, or wherever. So those are a couple of tips for keeping safe. Microsoft I still think is the best antivirus compared to the other ones, and I don't run one in Linux, and you don't need to run one on your phone if that becomes a question as well. Maybe I'll talk about that more in depth later at some time, but I see a lot of people run out and buy them. You're just making a bunch of money for those people that put the stupid apps under it that says, buy and scan your phone. I don't think they do any good. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and click the thumbs up. Leave us some feedback below to let us know any details, what you like and didn't like as well, because we love hearing the feedback. Or if you just want to say thanks, leave a comment. If you want to be notified of new videos as they come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe and the bell icon. That lets YouTube know that you're interested in notifications. Hopefully they send them, as we've learned with YouTube. Anyways, if you want to contract us for consulting services, you go ahead and hit launchsystems.com, and you can reach out to us for all the projects that we can do and help you. We work with a lot of small businesses, IT companies, even some large companies, and you can farm different work out to us or just hire us as a consultant to help design your network. Also, if you want to help the channel in other ways, we have a Patreon. We have affiliate links. You'll find them in the description. You'll also find recommendations to other affiliate links and things you can sign up for on launchsystems.com. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.